We have our next presenter, Dr. Christine von Renesse. She's in the mathematics department, and she writes that I believe that learning happens best when the learners engage actively in the process of doing mathematics. This includes exploring mathematics, asking questions, making conjectures, trying to make sense of the ideas, critiquing the reasoning of others, experiences productive failures, and celebrating successes. Being part of a community of learners makes this possible. I am a coach, cheerleader, and facilitator in the scenario, not the deliverer of information. And I've had the pleasure of being in one of her classes during the Open Doors classroom, and it was great. I never thought I'd like to actually stand around with the students and move and dance or move my body so that we do math stuff, but I did it, and I absolutely loved it. So I just have to say, if you ever have a chance to see her in the classroom again, do it, because it's amazing. You suddenly do things you would never thought you would do. So I'm happy that she's here today. Chrissy, it's...
Okay, so in comparison for the diversity papers, I would love to be able to continue in the way how this beautiful first presentation was done. I'm not at the point where you are at. I'm still like in the baby steps of figuring out how to teach mathematics and on the diversity at the same time, very much acknowledging my own learning process in that, just figured out how to show hidden figures and how to make that part of the conversation, and still learning, so I'm super interested in all kinds of ideas in that. What I want to do with you guys is I want to have you do math, because I'm supposed to show you how I teach, so that's how I teach, right? And all of you are hiding in the back, but I can go that way, no problem. So I will give you shapes, a growth pattern, and you have some colored pencils on your table. If you want more, there are more here. What I want you to do at first is I want you to work by yourself, which is kind of unusual, but the goal of this activity is not to figure out the mathematics, but to get the diversity of ideas. And if we work as a group immediately, then we all will get the same idea. There's this weird process of our brain, suddenly someone takes over, and then that's what's happening at the group. So for the first 3 minutes, I want you to look at your paper yourself and use your colored pencils to mark on the paper how the shape grows. And then we have the document camera going, and we can show some of what you colored in on the board. So that's how we're gonna start off. Okay? That's okay. So grab one of the papers, and my question is, how do you see the shapes grow? So if there are extras, if there are new ones in the next case, how did they grow? And then grab a colored pencil and show what you're seeing. And you don't have to think about the number pattern right now. I just want you to see how the shapes are growing. If you can do it one way, see if you can do it a different way. I'll put out a few more. If you have a different idea and you want to record a different one, feel free to record a different one.
They're all breaking. Yes, that's all. That's as far as I go.
And you saw that this one rose. So take a minute to look at the two and see, think about Okay, so I would, did everybody have enough time to get some of them? Feel free, I see people are already looking across the grid to see what other people do. You're cheating, that's okay. That's what happens. Okay, so I would love for some people to show how they were thinking about their pattern. And I don't know if we're small enough to hold them up, so I think the projecting that might make more sense. Who wants to start us out? Shirley, would you be willing to put yours up?
Sure.
Oh, wow. Okay. So put it up there and then come back here because otherwise they can't hear us. Okay, so what did you notice in the way how you were doing the patterns? Tell us what you were thinking.
So I colored in the, I guess like the original, like the previous iteration, like I colored in pink, and then any
So the previous, you're meaning that these
the original
four
one,
are again there?
And then whatever's added, you kind of told me in this one, but it's blue. And then I repeated that again in the third case.
So this, the purple one is all of this step.
Yeah.
And then everything that's new you saw on top.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Did someone else do it exactly that way? All right, that's cool. Who did it a different way? So all of you did it a different way, obviously, since you didn't do it her way. So who would like to share the next way?
I did it a different way.
You did it a different way? Okay.
A simple way.
Okay, we'll put it up and you can stay there and tell us what you were doing. Across the vast distance here.
Yeah, so
Not that easy to find out how to hold this thing,
Yeah.
apparently. Well, good enough. We get the
I
first
mean, I was interested in the curve, the distribution curve. So the line, so those squares on top will represent the distribution.
So you were looking at this as sort of a curve. You were connecting the new ones on top.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. Did you think about how sort of make a similar connection like Shirley did, that somehow these shapes were in these somehow, or did you not? Did it feel different from what Shirley said?
In a sense, I was just thinking that as the shapes grew, you would see additional squares. So like in the first, in case 1, you'd only have, you just have 2 squares on either side of the one on top. And then as in case 2, you have two more squares, on top of those. I don't know if I explained it right, but the squares begin to add up.
Oh, are there 2 more? Is that kind of, so you had 3 here, but then here you have 5 on top, so you have 2 more on top?
2 more on top,
Gotcha.
yes. And then there are 4 more on top as you go
4
on.
more on top on that one. So every step there's 2 more that you add on top.
Right.
Nice, thank you. Okay, who has a different way?
Would be brave.
I have my workout today. It's so cool because when I just looked around and I saw the colored pictures, I was afraid that they all looked the same. But even though they're colored in the same, it sounds like you guys are thinking differently about it. So that makes me very relieved.
So we
I did the exact opposite of Shirley, but it's the same concept. But, so originally I colored in, like now I can't see, but I colored in all of the case one?
No, like on that colors.
Right, so number one, it was supposed to, but I can't tell from the original. Is it colored in or not, case one?
I think those are not colored.
Oh, okay, so I think I did do it the opposite. So I didn't do anything on the first, because that's the original. Then I colored in what had changed or been added to case two. And then case three, I colored in the new additions. And then I got confused about what I had done, so I drew the arrows to see if I had, because I saw, it was like, okay, the glass half full versus half empty, and trying to like, wait a second.
So I'm curious about your arrows. So are you, these shapes, those four shapes here, your arrows seem to suggest that you look at this guy up here?
Yes, because that's
And then
what's new, what's been added.
Are these two up here?
No, it's just, there's one added on top of those.
Oh, okay. So you
Okay,
have
so
you
we're
still
looking at the
you still
blank
look at
spaces
these down
versus
here,
the
but you
colors.
have the arrows are like where you drop
Yes.
something new.
Yes.
Okay. So because I could also see that you could take the arrows first made me think that you thought of these on top here as the original one.
No.
That would be another way of doing it. Okay, cool. Thank you. One other way. Okay. Oh yeah, that's a different way.
My thought is about looking at the case one as the reference, and I look at the case and I want to find the average. So I define the vertical stack as where the average in that distribution. Then I ask myself, how will this average change over time, over cases? And I see two changes. As you go from case one to case two, you see two changes, horizontal and vertical. And that's why I identify those changes as you go in that direction, that it's get amplified once you're in case three. So I look at the distribution of the blocks in both directions, around the average.
Okay, so those, let's see if I got that. So these two are still the two on the outside?
Yes, right.
But then you're sort of thinking about that.
The average,
Is
right?
the average here,
Yeah, you
but then
extend
it's
that.
also getting one higher.
That's right.
And then
Height
here
and-
you have the same, you sort of open it up and you have the two on the side and going one up.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm a physicist, believe it or not.
Starting with arrows. I wrote driving a light.
Okay, this one what yours? And these two. You do two? Do you want to share one of them? Sure. Which one do you think is more different? We want the most different.
Of anything we've seen? This one maybe?
Okay.
So this is prompted by something you said. I don't think I would have thought of it had you not been saying, think of another, you said something that triggered it. And so I kept the original shape of two little ones and a stacked double and just showed everything that was added in after that. Ones with brown and then ones with red.
Oh, okay, so you kind of pulled this apart and then
Yeah.
stuck the brown stuff in the middle? And then you pulled that one apart and you have all the red stuff in.
Yep.
Okay. If we had left something brown in this one, what would you have left brown?
It could be the 3 stack and 2 stack, or it could be the 3 stack and the bottom 2 of the 4 stack.
The 3 stack and the 2 stack, you meant these two?
It could be those, either any, yes.
Or it could be the 3 stack here and then 2 of
Yes.
that. Which one of her 2 ways that she just said is the most like what happened between case 1 and case 2? If you want to follow her pattern from case 1 and case 2, which way should we make some of the red ones brown?
The 3 second master.
I think the 3 stack and those would still be
Brown.
brown maybe.
Or,
And then these red.
since she separated the first two, she could separate case 3 with the three being brown on,
So we
on the
could like
left
cut it
side.
off here.
Right, and take
So then
those
this
three,
would be brown and this would be
and then
brown.
that would be brown.
Or the bottom two of the fourth, yeah.
And that would
Yeah.
be the same separation.
Can you see how many different ways there are to do this? And if I do this with students, they come up with way more ways than you guys.
They should.
Sorry. There are some very different other creative ways that you can think about that we haven't seen yet, and that's cool. That's okay. It's late in the evening. So, how much more time do you want me to do the activity versus going to the questions?
We have another 10 minutes.
10 minutes in total. You want some
In
time for
total.
questions, right? Okay, so the reason that I love this part is because it honors the diversity of our thinking, right? There's no wrong or right to this, which gives everybody a room at the table. Everybody has a seat at the table and can have a discussion about that, no matter whether you're 5, no matter whether you've taken calculus or not, whether you're a physicist or an English teacher, it doesn't make a difference, right? So that's why I love this as an introduction activity. What I want you to think next is a little bit more of a mathematical focus, which is if we were to draw case 100, I don't actually going to make you draw that, but what would that look like? How would you know how to draw that? And then you can also think about how would you know how many blocks there are that you would have to draw. So take a minute in your group and think about what would happen at 100.
So how did you do yours?
Okay, I can see what you layered it. Yeah.
So I did this one too, but here I added this on the side. So see, this is the I and then I added this 2, 2, 1, and then 2, 2, 2, 1. And then 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1.
So it just keeps shifting right.
It's shifting right, but also the top part.
Each base.
But then I think so we would have to get to 100 But then I don't think that is the working.
So for each base, you have 3 here and then 5 and then 7. So you add plus 2 to get profit, right?
Here and here.
3
So I would
plus
not.
2 and then 5 plus 2.
So this here would always stay the white and the pink. So the new color would always start here. So new colors 100.
But I think I was trying to figure out, do I double, do I add more?
So
I just gave up. Oh, sweet. But we could come up with 2 ways, right? I mean, if the pattern is adding 2, then
with symmetry on either side of the curve stack. So if using the same piece where it's 4, can't we assume that case 100, at case 100 we're going to have 101, right?
Yeah.
And then the symmetry is just symmetry is just minus 1.
So you have 100 per location. So then you have 100 this way and 100 this way.
yeah,
That makes sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's just
That makes sense. I think that's the easiest to look at.
I wonder if we could work at 10.
What discipline are you in? I'm very impressed.
Yeah, me too. Because that makes complete sense.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the easiest way. Or like the
100 spread out, then we'd have, we don't know the, so we'd have to figure out
201. Yeah, it's because, well, so how many, those are 3, and there's 5. Then there's 7.
21 and 100, and then 100, and then 99, 98.
Yeah.
So it's just, so we could figure out how many total rows we have, columns we have.
Yeah.
So 100.
So we have 100.
Well, we're at 101 here, right? So that's 199. So that's 100. That's 100 plus 4.
So 301?
301 columns.
201. But this is just column 101. This is not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So 100, 100.
So 100 on this side and 100.
So
Oh, yeah,
200.
sorry.
200, yeah, just kidding.
So 201.
201. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, so that's columns, and so now you just do, and that would be,
Okay, so what is it? So we have so columns. Well, we have it. It's here, right? So we have 100 columns this way. Okay, what's this? And it's
But this pattern is 101 units high.
100. Yeah, that would be the base. But I mean, I'm just testing it out. So is that getting up? Is it on 20, case number 21?
But I don't know that number.
Which means that, right, so testing that would be,
Yeah.
As is this
3, 5, 7, 4, 9.
So these are progressive by numbers, but these are by
Let me do the math.
I mean, I guess we could figure out the total number.
At the bottom, how it's built up.
The old
Isn't there
area under the curve.
Yeah, the
calculus, but
the
so what's it going to be? We're going to have, this is going to be 100, so it's going to be, so the formula is going to be 100 minus 1 for 100.
So it's always case number plus 1 to go to the each side. So
Yeah,
case number 100.
the right number.
Isn't there a formula for adding the numbers to the previous?
Yeah, it's an iteration.
Meaning it's going to be 101 so is to power.
Well, what have you guys figured out about shape 100? Tell me everything you know about the case 100.
So I was presenting looking at this as symmetry. So
I've mapped it out. We're practicing. We're practicing our
we're always
It's funny because a lot of advisees
Center here.
we're always minus 1 on either side of this applying this our symmetrical center.
right?
So you said it 100 iteration or 100
Case 100.
case 100. So it's at case 3 we're at 4. So what the symmetry at case 100 is going to have 101 in the middle stacked, and then it's going to be
This
each
is not how they've been
So that gives you
row
a
is
sense
the-
for what you
This
have.
is the formula for blah. Now practice it on 10.
Yes, there is an equation that no, we will not get to it.
Like it has to be something easier than doing this.
Okay, let's get back together for a moment. So I would like to hear some things that are challenging about this task. What's something that's challenging? I saw each table grapple with different things. What are some things you noticed were challenging?
Simple mathematics. we were looking at the base numbers of everything. So we figured, okay, there's a pattern. So we got 3, 5, 7, and so each one seems to add 2. And we were trying to figure out what that meant for 100 items.
Okay. So you
we didn't land
were
on it
looking
yet.
for an equation of some sort?
Yes.
Okay. And that was difficult. And it sounds
seemed
like you
much more
felt like it
difficult
should be
than it
easy and it wasn't easy? Okay. And I didn't say that this is easy. So I have no judgment about that because I really don't think this is easy. I mean, we have like all kinds of people in the room and no one has written down an equation so far. What else? Something else that was challenging?
It seems like it would be a straightforward progression. You add 2 on each side each time. And we're adding, on the middle column, you're adding 1 each time. So it seems like there should be 2 simple XY things that you could do.
So it feels like there should be an easy equation, but it was out of reach.
Yeah, that's
Vanessa, what was it that you struggled with in the beginning?
That I couldn't conceive of case 4. You know, so I didn't feel like I could get up to 100. So I was trying to understand what's the growth pattern, and I couldn't even get there yet. So the idea of how to scale it up, I was still behind on the. But what's the rule of growth here? I still didn't feel like I had my head around it.
And it depends on how we were thinking about the growth patterns, right? Some of our growth patterns might extend really nicely to the next ones, and some of the things that you guys were thinking about might not have worked as easily. Right? We didn't get to share out all of them, so that was interesting to notice. So we will not get to the punchline, but this is homework to figure out what the equation is.
you make so long.
That's right. I will tell you one nice thing about this that might give you an idea, which is if you put this guy up on top, you get a 2 by 2 square, right? If you put these 3 up on top there, you get a 3 by 3 square. See something happening? You can physically manipulate them into making your life easier. But you can also figure it out by leaving your life hard. So that's one of the nice things we can do in the classroom with that, is solving it many different ways and comparing them. And each way will get you there eventually. Okay, that's what I have there.
Yeah. Question.
Yeah.
Do you ever do this with blocks? Does that help some learners?
If I do it for the future elementary school teachers, I give them the option to do that with blocks. If you want to think about 100, some of them might actually start building that, and that would be really bad. So you have to be also careful with that, right? That's why I like the coloring a bit better, because it's a bit more abstract already. Like, this is really pushing from the concrete to the abstract. Yeah.
I like the way that it calls upon people to go inside, and then how we think as individuals to figure something out. And so it calls upon what we know and the struggle, and that was kind of fun. Thank you.
Which changes the conversation in a mathematics classroom, right? Where usually it's very clearly defined who's successful, who's not successful. And so this way I have access to everybody in a very different way. I can also make choices, right? I could pull out a student that I know has not been very successful, use their growth pattern, give it their name, and for the next 5 weeks we could be talking about Tony's pattern and Tony's idea, which gives them a completely different role in the classroom. So I can make deliberate choices about who is represented in that, right? I could choose a black student for that. Like I could make a decision on where I want to plan successes, or like who I want to look important. So that's something I'm sort of trying to play with and be more conscious about.
That should be really good.
Yeah, I know of a feature in a smart board tool that's for cloning, where you could actually keep cloning the shapes. If students were to use that, how much do you think that would compromise the thinking process, or would it?
If they were thinking for this growth pattern about
yes,
cloning?
and using the technology to produce what you're requiring them, like to produce
also that they would actually on the computer generate the shape 100?
Yes, they're just cloning
okay.
it. Yeah. But so the question I'm asking is, how much would that interfere with the raw thinking about, as opposed, working with tactile?
I think it would interfere with my learning goal for this, because my next question would be, what's happening at case X? I want to know the answer for any case. And so I'm giving the 100 deliberately out of reach, so that there has to be more abstract thinking. And so in reality, I would ask first, can you do 4 and 5? And then can you do 10? And then can you do 100? And then can you do any X? To sort of slowly move the steps ahead. If they would do up to 100 with technology, I don't think they would be able to make the leap to X. But if they try in their head to go from 10 to 100, then it's easier afterwards to want to go from 100 to X. So I think it would hinder it in that particular example. I'm not opposed to technology in general at all, but I think for this particular one, it wouldn't actually help.
I have like one last question before we...
Yeah, I think I missed something, because when I was back there and you were giving instructions, I missed that you were filling in the boxes. And so when I sat down, I thought I wanted to ask you how important is the first question, how you see the shapes growing. And if I was, because all I got was this, and so I actually showed, I just imagined that they were growing, and so I showed it with my pencil instead of coloring in the boxes, and I thought, well maybe, maybe the question should have been, how do you see, or what boxes do you see added to the shape, or something like that. And that's why.
So
I think I missed that, because I think you might have instructed everybody
I
to fill
said
the
something like, where are the extra boxes from one shape to the next? Where do you see the extra box? I just didn't write that down. The question itself is very important. I think a lot of mathematics classrooms will give you the question, but they won't give you my prompt. They will just give you the pattern and then ask you how many blocks are in step or in case 10. But then if you just do that, then you take away the individual way of thinking about the growth, and you take away all the different ways of doing it. Then most people would do a table, record the numbers, not think about the shapes anymore, and purely think algebraically. So you would lose the geometric connection. So in that sense, the first question feels very important. And I stole that from Joe Bowler at E-Cubed, which says it on top.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy.